A topic that I don't find is covered very well or very often is when to walk away from a home purchase. So if you are a buyer and you are looking at properties and you've put a bid on one and it's been accepted and now you're under contract, sometimes it's not the right choice. So how do you know, should I walk away from this? And there obviously are not going to be any really quantitative checkbox ways that you can know for sure. It's because there's clearly no right and wrong. But here are some things that I would advise you to think about when you are starting to wonder if maybe this just isn't the right house for you. The first one is whether you are thinking you might have buyer's remorse once you actually get to the settlement table and own the house. Now that can happen because you think you bid too much, especially in this very competitive market we have right now. In order to win the bid on a house in a multiple bid situation, your offer is going to need to be very strong, very aggressive. Now, often that means it doesn't have contingencies. It could be that the price is very high and maybe now you're thinking, maybe that's a little bit too high. Maybe you were only able to get the house because you were very flexible with the seller when it came to the settlement date. And now you're thinking that that was a big mistake and it's going to make things very difficult on your family on the other end, having whatever that flexible settlement date, or maybe it's a settlement date really fast or really far in the future. In any event, it could be something that really is wreaking havoc on your situation on the other end. So those are just a few examples of why you might be thinking, I think I may have buyer's remorse if I go through with this the way it's structured. Another thing that can happen, and this is common, although less common in a very competitive market when often the bids that are winning do not have inspection contingencies, but in the event that your offer does and you've had an inspection and there are a lot of issues with the property, that can be another red flag that maybe you want to walk away. Now that can go a couple of ways. It can be that if the seller's not willing to reduce the price or give a credit or make repairs, that you say, this doesn't make sense from a financial perspective. But it can also be something where you think, wow, if there are all of these problems, I wonder if I'm buying a money pit. I wonder if a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, there's going to be continual things that crop up, and I don't know that I signed on for that. So look at that piece as well. Finally, there is the gut piece. Now, this one is the hardest because you want to be able to directly point to something as your reason, or most people do. But I think that there is a combination of analytical and quantitative information as well as a visceral response when buying a house that need to be listened to. So I think that if your gut is telling you this just isn't the right thing, you should listen to it. Specifically because on paper, if you do have all of those check boxes, you may find a property that really does check them all. But still, if you're feeling like there's just something that's not right, I say terminate and move on. Because, and I don't mean to sound too sentimental here, but a house is a house. It's walls, it's a roof, it's all of those things, location, and certainly some houses are much better laid out, are in much better condition, have more of the attributes you want than others. So there's no question that not every house is the same. But when it comes to living somewhere, it's funny and it's amazing how well we adapt to things that if we were looking for a house right now and we saw certain features that we have been living with, we'd say, oh no, that won't ever work. So the idea of you make a home where you end up, again, I don't mean to sound too sentimental, but I think that there is some evidence that that's true. So the house, the property, everything, all of those characteristics are important, but I think that you shouldn't ignore your gut if it's telling you that something about this house is just not right. You'll find somewhere else and you will be able to make a home there. So listen to your gut as well.